Hello, this is Ayumu and welcome to my seminar. This is the last video discussing that list from the Chile Grand Tour, in which today we will talk about the first place list. If you missed out the previous videos, you can find it at the top right corner right now or in the description below. Make sure to check it out after this video. Let's get started. And then finally right here, we have the white aggro list from the first place player, Alejandro Garcia. So he is also playing white aggro, and you might not recognize the name Alejandro, but you've definitely seen him before because I think he is probably one of the best white aggro players in the community. And as I've heard from him, he does go to some of the events in the US because, like, it's quite easy for him. He lives in Chile or Mexico. I can't remember where, but South America. You get what I mean. Maybe some of you US players might have also seen him before. But he is very famous for white aggro. For playing white aggro, literally some of my friends warned me about him before I went to Chile for the tournament. And so, unsurprisingly, he did win the tournament with white aggro. And if you've seen my video about the second place, then you can see that that list actually pretty similar, but there are a few changes, and I really love the choices that he did in this list. Personally, I have been testing with his list after the Chile tournament because I was going to attend the Summoners Duel in Utrecht Bandai Fest, which is best of one. I modified a little bit from his list, but generally, I was using his list, and I was really surprised as kind of how detailed his deck actually works. So there can be it's still a white aggro list, but there can be quite a few things to discuss about. And so first of all, one thing is that his deck is actually 51 cards, which is not really a big deal. I mean, but I suppose it's just something to point it out. Because I suppose some of you might think that it can affect the ratio a little bit. I mean, in terms of mathematics, yes it does, but instead of real possibility, it doesn't really affect the deck that much. And so 51 cards is actually a pretty good choice, because it does mean you can fit in one more card, which can be very important for a white aggro deck. So we're just gonna skim through most of the cards because again, you guys probably know why these cards are in here, so I'm not gonna talk about it too much. But I suppose one thing to point out is that he has 4 copies of Map Butterfly, which is basically just to maximize kind of the chances of him getting all the low cost cards in his starting hand. As you can see, he's playing literally 4 copies of every cost 1. And then also 4 copies of every cost 2 with 2 reductions. So he is literally trying to go for the chance of just going for 5 symbols on his first turn, which is definitely doable, especially with the 4 copies of Regain as well. He has 4 copies of Curiosity. When I was testing it myself, I thought that it might be too much. I would say maybe maximum 3 copies, but nonetheless, he was considering the meta environment in South America specifically. So he might think that 4 copies would be better. That's just preference at this point. I can definitely see why, because again, in best of 1, people are gonna bring in all kinds of magic cards that can basically wipe the field, especially Flush Stream. So if you can see Curiosity early game, you're basically nullifying their Flush Stream, or you're forcing them to use the Flush Stream on their main step, which then waste their cause to actually summon any spirits, which can be a risk for the opponent as well. So Curiosity being here in the early game can be quite threatening as well. And not to mention that being a low cost card, having 4000 BP at only 2 cores can be quite important as well, as I've mentioned quite a lot of times with Pegazione. Another interesting card is actually the Black Jagard. And I have very fond memories of this card because I literally lost to this card against him in the tournament. And I suppose it's not really something that a lot of people would think about, especially in this day and age with the BP power creep going on. A lot of the cards would just easily goes over 2000 BP. But again, in a best of 1 tournament, you will expect a lot of aggro decks. Whether it's white aggro, green aggro. I mean, in the Summoner Duels in Utrecht, someone even brought Surveyors. So in those cases, they will have a lot of spirits that 2000 BP or less. So like Black Guard in this regard, no pun intended, no rhymes intended, is can be actually really good. And it definitely caught me off guard. Again, no rhymes intended, because I just never thought that it would come out in the tournament. I was just too inexperienced. We were doing a white aggro mirror, and literally the turning point of the game was Alejandro summoning Black God, removing two of my spirits. And I couldn't see my Frost Tiger fast enough, so I just lose. And talking about Frost Tiger, you might be asking, why not just play Frost Tiger? Because Frost Tiger does the same thing, but with a better BP, basically better at everything. But one thing that makes the difference is obviously the cost. Because like Black God is simply 5 minus 3. If you're maintaining your board well, you will have 3 reductions most of the time. So Black God in a lot of cases is only 2 cost. Frost Tiger is 9 minus 4, and it also has an ascent cost. So it's definitely way harder to summon Frost Tiger than to summon Black God. And also another thing that is that if you're trying to consider a card to deal with aggro, then you also want summon that can be summoned early, because obviously if you're too slow then you would just lose. Why care about if you can summon the big bad guy who's cost 9? And so in that case, like Black God would also see more uses here than Frost Tiger. And the level 2 effect might also come in handy in some cases. I mean, at the moment I can't really think of any, but it's also like a 6000 BP spirit, so which is can be pretty decent in this deck, because as I mentioned a lot of times already, you don't really have a lot of things that goes over 5000. So just having a spirit with a choice of going to 6000 can be quite handy in some situations. And then we have 1 copy of Valkyrie Hilda. You might be thinking like, why only 1 copy? The best reason is probably just because you're not gonna see a lot of use of it. I think the mindset he has gone for also maybe that he was originally playing 4 copies of Dream Bomb, but then he decided maybe changing one of them into a spirit, because again, they do the same thing, but with Valkyrie Hilda, they give you an extra body to attack and block as well. And so that's probably the reason why there's only 1 copy of Valkyrie Hilda. It's more for the case of, oh god, my opponent actually managed to summon something big. I need to bounce it now, and I need to attack. And that's the moment when Valkyrie Hilda can come in handy. And then, in some cases, the level 3 effect might also become useful. I don't know, at that point Valkyrie Hilda is already 7000 BP. I don't really see a lot of chances that the opponent can destroy her. So, I don't know. And then he has 2 copies of Kakara instead of 1. Which I did ask him exclusively, and he was the one who said that it's because they didn't have Mesa available. And he did admit at one point that like Mesa would be better. Alejandro, if you're watching this, I'm sorry if I remember anything wrong. My memories are just really bad. But I remember he did say Mesa would be a little bit better, especially since he is playing 1 copy of Double Heart. So Mesa being Raspberry obviously gives the red symbol, and at level 2, she can return 2 costs to reserve as well. That can do quite a lot of things, because especially since that Alejandro did tell me that his ultimate combo is basically putting the opponent down at 2 lives and then just play an Astral Spirit and use Double Heart. Which in this case, which I found it really interesting, because as I said, I did test the deck as well afterwards, and I literally could barely find any situations where I would want to use the Astro plus the Double Heart together. Even if I did, it's mostly like a do or die situation, which is like not really something you want to get into. But I suppose like that's the cases you kind of want to get ready, because you are using a white aggro deck. You're kind of one of those decks where you just want to find every chance to win, even if the risk level is high. And so it's still a reasonable choice. Personally, I just don't really like the Double Heart, because most of the time it just breaks in my hand. In my own list, I would place the Double Heart with Frost Tiger. But if we calculate the cost, Mesa returning the 2 costs, so like essentially in that turn, all you really need is 7 for 11 costs to use, which might not be like the hardest thing to do. Why you might want to play this combo in this deck, because like Kakara can be a bit more hefty as well, which totals to about 13 cores. Yes, which is like, 2 turns more basically, which is a really big difference when you're using an aggro deck. But yeah, so like basically the premise is Astro plus double heart for like the final 2 symbols, and in some cases you might catch the opponent off guard because obviously they might expect you to be having only one symbol attacks every turn, so they're just gonna go down to 2 life, set down an ice shield, and just try to stall. But then obviously if you do an Astro plus double heart, then they can't really prevent against that. I suppose the only downside is that like whether if you're playing Smacer or Kakala, both of them are still below cost 5, so Flush Stream can just easily destroy them, which is like one reason why I don't really like this combination. That's kind of the main deck explained. So we move into the side deck. This side deck is like really simple. The side deck is basically just to change the playstyle completely. So I think for his concept, if he's facing like a mirror game, then like in like the second game and third game, instead of trying to go aggro again, he just go like completely defensive. And so we got 3 copies of Elk, which would become the new win condition for the deck, because like you won't be attacking, you're just gonna be stalling while your opponent try to waste all the resources to even get through your wall. And then 4 copies of Ice Shield, obvious enough for defensive purposes, and then also suppression, again for defensive purposes. So so as you can see, like his list is really simple, but like there are a few interesting choices, but like it's very understandable why he might want to play it that way. And so congratulations to Alejandro again for getting the first place. And well, thank you to you guys for also like staying until the end of this video. I hope you kind of enjoyed my little review of like these stat lists. And then yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.